morning, Richard. Looking forward to having another chat with you like I do every single solitary week. I learn something new.
Good to see you too, Eric. How's it going?
It's going great in New York City. How about where you are?
Man, feels like we live on opposite ends of the earth. It's going great out here in the country.
It sure does. I mean, and as we've talked about before, that's something very interesting about our relationship.
It is.
How much we have in common and how much we don't. Out the window. I'm curious, Richard, if did you see Sam Altman's testimony before Congress?
I didn't watch as much of it as I would have liked. I saw some of the highlights. Yep.
And, I think seeing the highlights is probably told enough of a story. What's your opinion on regulation and how that might even possibly be done?
I am not excited about regulation for AI. I really think that it's when you get the regulators and the big technology companies together, it really becomes kind of a monopoly situation. And my bigger concern, the people that are calling for regulation, their concern is that AI is some form of superior intelligence that could put our, society and existence at risk. I really think it's the regulators plus the technologists together that create what I'll call the Wizard of Oz risk, where it's not actually what the machines are producing, it's the man behind the curtain, that people don't think is there, but in fact is there. And so the man behind the curtain, or the Wizard of Oz risk, is my biggest concern. And so when you have somebody like Sam Altman going and talking to Congress and saying, you guys got to regulate this. And I don't know if you saw, he's got another startup that is offering to scan your iris so that you can prove you're human and collect your universal basic income. I mean, is that a world that you want to live in, Eric?
That is as concerning.
Is that where you'd like this to go?
I mean, people, when they started using fingerprints, if you wanted to on any of your Apple technology, I wasn't giving up my fingerprint. I'm not giving away anything else of myself. No, I totally hate that idea.
So, the question is, where is this coming from? How did we get here that, somebody like Sam Altman, a credible person, can go in front of Congress, a credible body, and make an incredible claim that humanity is at risk from a technology, that he helped give birth to, and that now needs to be regulated because, otherwise things could spiral out of control.
Well, but I'll play devil's advocate for a second. And, the Wizard of Oz, factor, it's alarming and I think a really great concern. I'm walking down the street and, you can consider the zip code, I guess, where I live, but I'm walking down the street over the weekend and I hear two people talking behind me, and one person's telling the other how he was feeling really sad. So he had a conversation with ChatGPT, and the person who he was talking to said, "Oh, that's always a great idea. I'm just listening to this." And the person that I'm listening to goes on to describe basically what sounded like a therapy session and how ChatGPT seemed to cheer him back up. He was so self-conscious about pretty much everything. ChatGPT told him the average height of the average male in the United States. It went on and on and on. He's talking to technology like it's a person.
Right. Well, look, here's where I would love to get your thoughts, Eric, because ChatGPT is a form of media. I mean, can we agree on that?
Oh, no, we agree on it.
All right.
Yeah.
It is a form of media. It presents itself on a screen. That's all it is. It's a form of media, algorithmic media. So what is this relationship with media? What is media?
Well, it's the media. I mean, I call it surround sound. It's how do we all get all of our information? You know, old-fashioned newspapers, which I still love, television, which has become more and more disturbing and inaccurate in my own opinion.
Yeah.
The internet, which is where I think more and more people are flocking to, and throw in AI into the mix because it's definitely part of it. It's going to, I think it's going to change the dynamics of information dissemination. But nevertheless, yes, it is part of the media on my computer screen.
And when you think of it in terms of media, right? Oh, ChatGPT is just another form of media. Does that change kind of what you think about? Should it be regulated, or how should it be regulated, right? Or what can it do for us and what can't it do for us?
Yeah, in part influenced by you, but in part because I wholeheartedly have always agreed with this as it pertains to technology. The problem is that we are supposed to, we should be smart enough. We don't even have to be that smart to know we can use technology. We can use it. We can do a lot of things with technology. However, what's happening today is we're being used by it, or a vast majority of people are. Yeah. And that is a problem. We need to understand how we can use technology to do things better. Not be the free product that's being used by our own algorithms. And I think that, a majority of people would fall into that category. That's concerning.
Yeah, I just want to push this point with media a little bit further, right? Because, it's not every day you get to talk to somebody with your experience in media. And this is just kind of, I'm thinking this through, but I haven't really thought of it this starkly before. Right. So, the thesis that ChatGPT and, AI are threats to humanity, that they're like a superior form of intelligence. Right. If we agree that, it really is a form of media, right? It's ultimately something that gets presented on your screen. So there's kind of an implied thesis that you and I are just media, that we're all just media, that intelligence is a form of media, and that's where, to me, it gets really interesting. And I don't believe that we're all just media. To me, what I'm seeing from ChatGPT and other of these AI models is more evidence, that media is something that can be manipulated. Media is not what we are. And, most people don't have a sense of what we are, right? There's a lot of debate about what we are and what reality is. But, this idea of regulation opens up the door that essentially somebody else is going to control my media, going to control ultimately what I can think. And that is presenting this idea that media, is the nature of reality itself, the nature of intelligence, and that we should kind of be, stepping back and going, whoa. So I just think that's fundamentally wrong. And, have your view of having been in the industry as long as you have, would you want the media industry to essentially, take over governing?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the thing about media is no matter what the form is all of us have different ways that we collect information. All of us
Yeah.
have different avenues that are, some are more influential than others.
Yes.
I've never believed everything I've read anyway, ever. I mean, and
Yeah.
I practiced this for 40 years. I've been on national television for a decade. I knew when I was on national television, we argued about issues that neither of, myself included, neither of us actually understood in depth. However, we're influencing hundreds of thousands of people. That's just wrong. So, but
So is it right for ChatGPT to do it? What's the difference?
No difference at all.
I don't see a big difference.
There is no difference. I mean, look, as a writer, just as one example, I have my concerns that I'm like a real writer in real life for my real career. However, some kid can write as well as I, certainly punctuate better in a minute with ChatGPT. That's some tough competition. I still believe that writing from the heart, because I have one, will be different from what ChatGPT will do. And game on, ChatGPT. And I'm sure that I'll use it for research also, with emphasis on use it. And I know I don't want anybody telling me how to use it, when to use it, what applications do and don't make sense for me. I would like to ascertain that on my own if I can.
Yeah. And I think that, what I've seen with ChatGPT, attempting to use it myself, not only personally, but in my business, is that, as my friends say, it's very hard to keep it on the rails. It's very hard to get it to consistently give you accurate information. You have to work pretty hard to have it consistently give you accurate information. Now, the thesis is, that's going to get better. It's going to increasingly give us more and more accurate information. But you really have to be quite discerning in order to be able to tell if it's giving you accurate information or not, right? So, again, this meme that's going around that AI is about to, hit the singularity, if we use Ray Kurzweil's language, that somehow this thing is about to, we're about to give birth to a superior evolutionary intelligence. That's the big threat to me, because that is completely wrong. And I think when you this idea of just seeing it as a form of media, really puts a box around it. And I think an effective and interesting way, all of a sudden you're like, oh, you're right. It's just media.
Right.
So either if you want to follow the thesis that ChatGPT is a superior form of intelligence, then you have to say, well, you and I are just forms of media, and actually lesser forms of media than ChatGPT, right? Yeah. So I don't believe that. Nobody lives their life as if they truly believe that. They might talk about it in polite company, but the reality is that we don't live our lives as though we're just media. And we do have an experience of reality and relationships that can't be similarly experienced by interactions with our screens.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Let me change the topic, if I might. I watched the first episode of your new YouTube program on Market Moves.
Mm-hmm.
You described that program as a program that looks beyond the headlines and hype to dig deeper into underlying forces that are moving the markets. Ironic, based on our conversation. I'm curious why you decided to do this program.
I've learned a lot over the years. I have I think a relatively unique perspective. And I think that people need simpler, more insightful explanations about what's going on in the markets to really understand the markets better.
Yes.
And so, I'm working with my friend Dr. Barton, who he and I have a lot of parallels, in our financial education careers, see the world in the same way, in many ways. And so to be able to work with him and be able to bring people clearer insights, simply communicated, we'll see. I think people might be interested in it. But, you tell me, people, and we'll see what the response is. But, it's an attempt to present something simple and insightful about the markets to people and actionable, right? And I get very frustrated with the level of complexity and complexification that's presented about markets. I don't think it helps the average person engage with markets in a constructive way. So just trying to present one or two ideas a week, thoroughly researched, presented together with DR to help people just go, oh, that's what's going on. Okay, that makes sense. And last week we talked about, the hype cycle of AI, right? And you can see that just 8 stocks are driving the S&P 500 right now. 8 out of the 10 stocks in the S&P 500, 8 out of the top 10 stocks are technology stocks. I think Berkshire Hathaway and maybe a healthcare stock are the other top 2. Berkshire Hathaway is in the top 10 largely because of Apple. So it's kind of a redundant play on Apple in many ways. And so, and all those stocks, NVIDIA, Meta, et cetera, are getting a huge boost from this AI narrative, which I believe people are understanding incorrectly, right? It doesn't mean that I don't think AI isn't a real technological or these large language models aren't a real technological advance. I do think that they are. But we're definitely in the midst of a hype cycle. People's expectations about what this can do are not aligned with the reality of what it can do, certainly right now. And there's going to be a lot of disappointments along the way, along with some actual innovations, but it's going to take time for all of that to play out. And, it's not worth a double in NVIDIA's stock in 60 days.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and I have a follow-up question to this, but even the notion of a hype cycle, just the adjective itself, just the way that you label that, it makes it all understandable immediately. It's not that complicated, and it's completely, plausible, likely, and understandable.
And we haven't had a good one in, what was the last one before AI? Maybe NFTs.
Yeah, remember them?
Remember them, right? And there was the meme stocks.
Yeah.
So now we got one. We got AI. Got a tiger by the tail. Let's run some prices up with it.
Well, just as soon as I finally understood NFTs, they seem to be gone. And to that point, what differentiates this show from the show that you do with DR?
Well, it's a chance to talk to somebody with your experience in media, which I think is a huge issue right now, because I think our world is increasingly media driven, and we're all, I think that anything we see on a screen is a form of media. And I think that that's one of the key questions facing us right now. It's been a question for a long time. You go back to Marshall McLuhan, right? But I really think it's something that we need to be talking about, looking at, understanding, because I think that there's some choices that, both personally and economically and societally, that we have to make about our relationship with media and where it's going. And so to be able to talk with somebody like yourself about those issues, I think, is valuable for me and valuable for our audience.
Thank you. One last topic. I know that the right after Memorial Day, you're going to the Epsilon Connect in Nashville, which we were talking about for the rest of the week. It's like a pretty fascinating event. Can you just touch on, tell us what Epsilon theory even is?
Yeah, well, that's Epsilon theory is really a website, a community started by Ben Hunt. Ben Hunt, I think his background academically was as a linguist. And then he ran hedge funds, and he got interested in the financial space, and just brings a very unique perspective to the goings on in the financial world. Very insightful. And he's built up a large following because he's been doing this for 10 years, writing phenomenal pieces, long form pieces, together with his partner, Rusty Gwynn, over there, that really are extraordinary. And lots of thoughtful people have been attracted to it and gathered around their work there. So they're having an in-person conference for the first time in their 10-year history. And I'm going. So just looking forward to meeting other people that see the world, through similar eyes. Very much a media first perspective, I would say. I mean, they call it narrative, but media and narrative, I don't know, they might just be synonyms. So I think Neil Howe is going to be there, who wrote The Fourth Turning along with Strauss. That's a very cycles focused work, and we're in the midst of the fourth turning right now. So lots of interesting people, and it's a chance to get together with people in person that I know I have a fair amount in common with. So getting past the screens and in person once in a while, I think, is key. And so looking forward to that.
Yeah, amen. So would you say that's, being with a lot of like-minded people, and I'm sure a lot of, intellect rubbing together, but in person.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something that happens in person that doesn't happen on screen, whatever that mystery is. That's the key to why a media-driven reality ultimately isn't the answer to our problems, and a better media-driven reality isn't going to make it better.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I don't know if this is off topic or not, but you're and pontificating the values of being at that in-person meeting.
Yeah.
In real, like professionally, we all do a lot of this. We're communicating this way, and people are watching us, and maybe they're influenced, maybe they're not, maybe they're inspired, maybe they're not, maybe they disagree. But in person is definitely different. In your personal life and your family time, I know that it's a priority for you, which I think is such a lost art with so many families across the country and the world, that that time, that real person time, is very different. I'll be very.
You know it too, Eric. You had a campaign 20 years ago, right? About what was it? About put your phone down at the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Offline. Yeah,
offline. Right, offlining.
Yep.
So it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing, and we all need to do more of it. We all know it. Everybody knows it.
I'll be very curious.
I don't think ChatGPT helps us offline.
No, definitely not.
I don't think Sam Altman thinks we should offline. I think he thinks that we are all media, and that ultimately ChatGPT is going to be a better form of life than our, in-person relationships.
Our in-person relationships, and you're not getting a sunrise or a sundown on ChatGPT or anywhere on the internet. Just go watch one. Way better, just like being in person is. On that note, I'll close out today and say it was great talking to you again this week. I'll look forward to talking to you after the conference.
Likewise, Eric. Always good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you.